Alarming secret, on my granddaughter's birthday, they placed my photo on the door. Never again. The sun hung low in the sky, drenching the street in an eerie orange glow. It was my granddaughter's birthday, a day that should have been filled with laughter and joy. Instead, a chill gripped my heart the moment I reached for the door. My eyes widened when I spotted a twisted smile coldly staring back at me from a photo pinned to the front door, as if the very would conspired with the horror of it all. It was my face, a face shadowed with worry and inexplicable dread. Who would do such a thing? Why today, of all days? As I tore the image from its place, the paper felt unnaturally warm, almost alive. My hands trembled. Had someone been watching me? Was it a sick joke? The world shrank around me, a suffocating blanket of confusion and fear. My heart raced thump, thump, thump as I thought of the possible scenarios. Each one more frightening than the last. The neighborhood was notoriously quiet, yet the air buzzed with an uncomfortable tension, like the heaviness before a storm. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see a pair of eyes lurking in the shadows. Then it hit me, the stories. The strange happenings around town. Murmurs of the bazaar, an old woman in the alley, babbling about curses and shadows, missing pets that returned with only half their fur, and always those who swore they could hear whispers in the night. My mind raced to those tales, and my fingers quaked at each sound. Had I unknowingly stepped into a nightmare woven with the threads of those eerie stories? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As I stood there, the chill deepened. An unsettling noise echoed down the street, a raspy laugh that seemed to come from nowhere. My stomach twisted. Was I being hunted? Every instinct screamed at me to rush inside, to barricade myself from whatever lurked beyond that door. But still, the photo's weight pulled up my thoughts. Could this just be me overreacting? Or was it a warning? My feet felt rooted to the ground, adrenaline surging through me. I raised my gaze to the sky, and a single crow descended, cawing loudly as if announcing something dreadful. In that moment, I knew I couldn't ignore this. I had to uncover the truth behind that photo, my face, on my granddaughter's birthday, a date now tainted. But what would I discover? Was there something more malevolent at play, something lurking in the shadows, waiting to be revealed? The night wrapped itself around the house like a suffocating shroud. Darkness slithered in through the corners, creeping into the nooks where light dared not venture. I felt an urgent pull to look away from the door and its ghastly reminder of what had transpired. Yet, that very haunting smile remained seared into my mind. Who had managed to weaponize my likeness against me? With a shaky breath, I turned toward the dim glow of the living room. Shadows danced within, morphing into twisted shapes as I stepped inside. My heart pounded like a war drum. I closed the door behind me, the click echoing in the quiet like the final note of a somber song. This was my sanctuary, the place where I'd piled up sweet memories with my granddaughter, balloons, cake, and laughter. Today was supposed to be different, but now it felt invaded, transformed into a scene from a horror film. I glanced at the clock on the wall. It was only 5 o'clock, but the way the sky darkened outside, it felt much later. My senses were heightened, and every creak of the floorboards made me jump. Each sound whispered danger, warning me of unseen eyes. I had to find answers. It was then I remembered the tales of the old woman who roamed the streets at twilight. Tilly, they called her. The townsfolk avoided her. They claimed she dealt in the spiritual, that she could peer into the depths of your soul and pull forth your shadows for all to see. I couldn't dismiss the chance that she might hold a thread to this mystery, even if it sent a chill racing down my spine. With determination swelling inside me, I grabbed my coat and slipped on my shoes. The quiet crescent of streetlights beckoned me outside. To expose myself to whatever unseen horror lay ahead, I needed to confront it. The instant I stepped into the cool evening air, the surroundings felt foreign, oppressive. As I walked, I noticed the emptiness of the streets. Not a single soul wandered, and even the brash laughter from nearby homes seemed muted. The very air felt thick, a heavy blanket that weighed down on my shoulders. It felt as though even the trees had stilled, listening intently for answers that would never come. I rounded the corner towards the alley where Tilly often sat on her rickety chair, draped with colorful shawls that fluttered in the breeze. Her yellowed eyes had an otherworldly glint, a mix of wisdom and sadness. Approaching the alley, I barely heard the whispers rising from somewhere nearby. Then, I saw her. Tilly sat hunched under the flickering light of a street lamp, her presence compelling yet unsettling. "You've come for answers," she rasped, her voice a dry whisper. Goosebumps prickled my skin as I stepped closer. "Yes, about the photo. I found it on my door." My face. Tilly's gaze pierced through me, and an unexpected chill wrapped around my heart. "What you must uncover is buried deeper than you can fathom," she murmured. "It's not just a photo, it's a warning or a curse." Each word hung in the air like a fog. My heart raced as I sought the meaning behind her words. What exactly was I dealing with? "Why today?" I asked, but as the question left my lips, she waved her bony hand, cutting my inquiry short. Her eyes had shifted, gazing beyond me into the night. "Look carefully," she whispered breathlessly, "for the night has eyes that do not sleep, and time may not be on your side." My pulse quickened. Darkness loomed behind me, and a feeling like icy claws grazed my spine. Suddenly, loud footsteps echoed through the alley, a heavy rhythm closing in. "Who's there?" I spun around, fear paralyzing my limbs, but nobody answered. The shadows only seemed to laugh, and the night dragged me deeper. What was waiting for me in the dark? And would I uncover my truth or simply become another story whispered in the town? The air shifted, thick with tension, and my heart raced in an erratic dance against my ribs. I instinctively stepped closer to Tilly, hoping her presence would ward off whatever menace lurked beyond my view. Her yellowed eyes widened, reflecting an unspoken warning, a darkness that felt ready to swallow me whole. "Trust your instincts," she urged softly, her voice a mere ripple against the chilling wind. "When shadows call, they often pull at the very fabric of your fear. The photo is not just a reflection, it's a trap." My breathing quickened. Each word seemed to slither into my mind, entwining with the panic encroaching on my thoughts. I tried to anchor myself to any semblance of normalcy, but the closer I stood to her, the more the surrounding darkness quaked. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the depths of the alley. A man, barely discernible, his outline wavering between shadows. He moved with the ease of a predator, gliding forward, his face hidden beneath a hood. My instincts screamed for me to flee, but my feet felt rooted to the pavement. "What do you want?" I croaked, desperation flooding my voice. Tilly shot me a sideways glance, her gaze filled with a mixture of fear and defiance, a warning I couldn't quite interpret. "Nobody needs to get hurt yet," the stranger hissed. He took another step forward, and just as I thought he could get close enough to see my face, a loud crash echoed somewhere down the street, pulling the shadow's attention away from me. Tilly grabbed my wrist, her grip ironclad. "Run!" she commanded. Without hesitation, she yanked me into the alley, the man turning his menacing gaze toward the crashing sound. We stumbled deeper into the darkness, the air thickening with the scent of wet earth and danger. We dashed through a narrow space, my heart pounding mercilessly. I glanced behind, catching only a glimpse of the figure. He hadn't followed, at least not yet. Tilly's pace slowed as we reached a dimly lit corner crowded with crates and refuse, her breath coming out in short bursts. "What do we do now?" I gasped, panic clawing at me. "Quiet," she snapped, eyes darting around vigilantly. The distant sound of footsteps resumed, rhythmic and ominous. "If he finds us, there's no escaping. We need to hide." I nodded, obeying, feeling the weight of dread press down on my chest. We crouched low behind a stack of crates, shadows enveloping us in a suffocating embrace. The world faded, reduced to rapid breaths and the faint thuds of the intruder's approach. As we sat there, the weight of silence smothered me, a suffocating reminder of my vulnerability. My thoughts raced, contemplating the warning of the photo's curse. Was this man linked to it? Was he the puppeteer, and I the marionette dancing on strings of fear? Then a flicker caught my eye. A glint of something metallic, a flickering flame that illuminated the alley as he walked past, revealing the strange tattoo etched into his forearm, a vivid, twisting serpent, winding around an hourglass. My heart lurched. It was the same emblem I remembered seeing in my late husband's sketchbook, a symbol rumored to hold dark power, a warning that had haunted our family. "Do you see it?" Tilly whispered, her voice barely a breath. I nodded, swallowing hard. "It connects to something." Suddenly, the man spun around, his eyes narrowing as they locked onto our hiding spot. "We need to go now," Tilly hissed, urgency propelling us into motion. Bursting out of our hiding place, we ran down the alley, adrenaline coursing through my veins. But the night had other plans. As we reached the street, I felt the ground split beneath me. A sudden rush of darkness engulfed us all, and a guttural laugh echoed from the shadows behind us. What awaited us in this web of darkness? Was this truly connected to my past, or just the beginning of a nightmare that would consume us both? The darkness swallowed us like ice, squeezing the breath from my lungs. I fought to keep my feet beneath me, but the tremor in the ground made that a near impossibility. Tilly's hand tightened around my wrist, her nails digging into my skin, a burning reminder that she was here, as terrified as I was, but determined to survive. "Where do we go?" I choked out, my voice rasping as panic clawed at my chest like a wild animal trapped in a cage. "Just run," Tilly shouted, pulling me along, her resolve igniting a flicker of hope against the dread looming over us. With every step, shadows lurked in the corners of my vision, whispering fear with every footfall. The distance of the guttural laugh echoed sickeningly in my ears, a hunter's call promising something terrible yet unseen. I could barely process the world around me, the dim streetlights flickering, the cobblestones slick beneath our feet, the stench of refuse mingling with an unrecognizable burn that turned my stomach. We turned a corner, the air stinging as if charging with electricity, and for a moment, I dared to think we'd escaped. Tilly led me toward a narrow archway that looked like a forgotten passage between buildings. Sweat dripped down my back, chill prickling my skin as we ducked inside. Once out of sight, Tilly pressed her back against the cold brick wall, her breath burning in her throat. "We can't stay too long. He'll find us," she whispered urgently. "Who is he?" I asked, desperate for some understanding, but before she could answer, the thunderous footsteps echoed again, growing louder, closing in. I could feel the vibrations under my skin. Tilly closed her eyes, focusing. "It's not just him. There are others, people like him. They want the photo, and they'll do anything to get it." The photo. At that moment, it felt like the weight of a kingdom rested on my trembling hands. I couldn't shake the thought of it, its grip tightening around my sanity. What's the connection? Why is it so important to them? "I don't know," she rasped, shaking her head. "But we can't let them have it. It's got a history, a curse." A curse. My mind flashed to my husband's sketchbook, a dizzying cascade of memories pulling me under. I remembered his frantic whispers about the serpent and the hourglass, about time running out and destinies woven by a long-forgotten force. "Do you think the tattoo is part of it?" "Yes," Tilly muttered. "You've seen it before. They're part of a cult, a dark one. They want your bloodline to break their chains." She took a shaky inhale, grasping my hands as her eyes widened. "We have to find a way to break the curse before it's too late." A crack of thunder rumbled above us, darkness swirling around. I glanced over Tilly's shoulder, catching another glimpse of the hooded figure creeping closer down the alley, his tattoo flickering in and out of shadows. "Time's up," I murmured, dread coursing through me. "We can't stay hidden forever." And then, something shifted. The air grew heavy, crisp with fear. As if the shadows themselves had begun to inch closer, constricting around us with each breath. "Look!" Tilly hissed, pointing ahead. "There's a doorway. It leads to an old cellar. We might be safe there." Her urgency struck an instinct within me, survival instinct flaring. We bolted toward the door, scrabbling for the rusted handle. But my heart lurched as another burst of laughter punctured the night, gnawing at the edges of my sanity. Before I could reach the door, Tilly stopped, her eyes wide with horror. "No!" he asked, blocking the way. I turned, taking in the sight of the closed alley filling with darkness. The figure was now mere feet away, the serpent tattoo glimmering like a beacon in the black. The laughter grew louder, shattering any remnants of courage we had left. I could almost feel the shadows wrapping around my ankles, pulling me down. Then, in that moment of pure panic, I finally understood. "Why?" I whispered, the words choking me. "Why does he want me?" Tilly's face fell, her voice trembling. "Because you're the one who can break the curse." And just then, the world tilted again, pulling us toward an unknown fate. What sacrifices would we have to make to protect ourselves? What would the shadows demand from us next? The grip of fear tightened as I stared at the figure, his presence almost suffocating. The laughter echoed, warping the night around us into a living nightmare. I could feel the cold sweat racing down my spine, every heartbeat a reminder that time was slipping away. "Let us go!" Tilly shouted, urgency slicing through my paralysis. With a furious yank, she pulled me toward the cellar door, the rusted handle cold against my palm. I twisted it, but it wouldn't budge. Panic clawed at me. I could hear the hissing breath behind us, the unmistakable approach of something monstrous, and all I could think was escape. With a roar that poured from my depths, I forced my shoulder against the door, pushing with everything I had. It creaked open, revealing a dark void that swallowed the light behind us. Without hesitation, I dove inside, dragging Tilly with me as the door slammed shut, sealing the darkness around us. Breathless, I leaned against the door, hands pressed flat against the splintered wood. The laughter faded but did not disappear, its lingering echo creeping in like smoke. "Is he out there?" I whispered, my voice trembling. Tilly crouched beside me, trying to catch her breath. I don't know, her voice was barely a whisper, almost lost in the heavy silence of the cellar. "But we need to barricade ourselves in." We scrambled for debris, collecting boxes and broken wooden crates, stacking them against the door. As we worked, shadows flickered at the edges of my vision, merging with the darkness that consumed us. Once the door felt secure, we sank to the ground, our bodies trembling with adrenaline and terror. The cellar was small and damp, the air thick and musty. There was no light, only the faintest hint of outlines around us. My mind raced, a million thoughts colliding at once. "What do we do now?" I asked, gripping Tilly's arm. "I need you to remember," she said, her eyes locking onto mine, fierce and focused. "Everything from the photo, from what you heard. Your bloodline, your husband's drawings, there's a reason they want you." "What if I can't remember?" I felt a cold sense of panic rise once more, the shadows creeping in closer. "You have to dig deep," Tilly urged. "Think about the day you found it. Focus on the details. The serpent, it's a key, and if you understand it, we might be able to escape this." The pressure built within me, an overwhelming mix of anxiety and hopelessness. I squeezed my eyes shut, images swirling through my mind, the art, the sketches, his whispered fears. I saw the serpent coiled around the hourglass, the way it had pulsed with that strange energy. "Time is running out." Tilly's voice yanked me back, and I opened my eyes. "Think about the curse, about what it means." Suddenly, a sound shattered the stillness, a scrape against the door, a soft whisper of movement that sent ice coursing through me. The laughter resumed, but now it felt closer, more personal, as if it had slipped into the cellar with us. "It's coming," I gasped, my heart racing. "What does it want?" "We'll have to confront it," Tilly cried, the fire in her eyes both terrifying and exhilarating. "Whatever it takes." We faced the shadows together. Before I could respond, the door shuddered violently, a force pressing against it from the outside. The laughter morphed into hissing murmurs, taunting us in the creaking darkness. I knew there was no way out but to face whatever awaited us on the other side. "Are you ready?" I asked, my pulse pounding in my ears. Tilly nodded, determination illuminating her features. "Whatever happens, we stay together." As the door groaned open, an eye-piercing brightness erupted from the outside, illuminating the figure standing just beyond the threshold. I felt the weight of their gaze, drawing me in like a moth to a flame. "Welcome home," it whispered, the voice chilling and alluring all at once, as shadows danced around its feet. With the darkness closing in and our hearts racing, I wondered, had we truly made the right choice by confronting this nightmare? What other horrors awaited us in this unholy game of fate? The light spilled into the cellar, blinding and stark. I squinted, trying to make sense of the figure before me. Tall and shrouded in shadows, it seemed to pulse with an unsettling kind of energy. A faint smile played across its lips, but there was no warmth in it, just a chilling mockery of familiarity. "What do you want?" I managed to stutter, my voice barely breaking through the frantic thundering of my heart. "Isn't it obvious?" The figure replied, its tone slithering into my mind like a serpent. "The truth is always waiting to be unearthed, and you are my key." Tilly stood beside me, a wall of defiance. "We're not afraid of you," she shouted, her courage barely masking the quiver in her voice. "Oh, but you should be," the figure retorted, stepping into the light. Suddenly, I could see it more clearly, a twisted version of a familiar face, one I'd seen in faded photographs. My heart dropped. It was a distant ancestor, one whose story had been buried under layers of family lore. "Your past calls to you," it whispered, its voice thick with anticipation. "Will you answer?" My pulse quickened as fragments of memory swirled into focus. Fables my grandmother used to tell, horrors wrapped in delightful tales. The serpent, an emblem of betrayal and deception, was a part of my bloodline's curse. "What have you done?" I gasped, backing away, my breath quickened as shadows began to encircle us, their edges jagged like broken glass. "The question is, what will you do?" It leaned closer, the smile becoming more sinister. "The curse is a gift, don't you see? You have the power to change the course of history." Tilly grabbed my arm, her grip iron. "We're not interested in your twisted legacy," she snapped. "Are you so sure?" The figure's laughter rose, echoing off the walls of the cellar. "You're tied to it, whether you like it or not, and it will not let you go. You've already awakened it by finding the drawings." "Awakened what?" I demanded, panic swirling inside me. The walls felt like they were closing in, suffocating me with every desperate breath I took. The figure gestured around us dismissively. "Everything you see is but a shadow of the reality you can't escape. Look closely at the serpent in the hourglass. It is both your downfall and your salvation." Suddenly, the creature lunged forward, its hand outstretched. Tilly yanked me back just in time, and we stumbled away from its grasp. The shadows seemed to come alive, writhing and stretching, as if trying to snatch us back into their embrace. "This can't be happening," I shouted, but deep down, I knew I had to confront the darkness. The situation was dire, and the panic was threatening to swallow me whole. "It's a test, a reckoning," Tilly cried, pulling me closer. "If we want to escape, you have to face it." The shadowy figure loomed larger, its voice now a hiss, blending with the darkness. "Choose wisely, blood of the serpent, the choice will define you." Then, just as abruptly, the brightness exploded again, washing over us like a wave. The cellar shook, the very ground beneath us vibrating with a terrible force. I gripped Tilly's hand tightly as we stared at the shattered remnants of our world. The figure started to dissolve, morphing into specters of my ancestors, their tormented faces twisted in agony. I felt their despair wrap around me like chains, ancient and cold. "Do you understand now?" it asked, its voice blending with the cacophony of whispers. "You belong to this nightmare." It was too much. My knees buckled, anger and fear clawing at my insides. We had to get out before the darkness consumed not just our bodies, but our very souls. In that moment, clarity struck me like lightning. "We'll turn the curse into our weapon," I yelled, defiance surging through me. Tilly looked at me, the same realization dawning in her eyes. "Together, we can break this." But before I could grasp any semblance of hope, the shadows lunged again, pulling us deeper into their velvet abyss. As darkness swallowed us, I realized the stakes were higher than I ever imagined. How could we harness the power of our bloodline to confront this malevolent legacy? Would facing it deliver us from this curse or bind us forever in its grasp? Everything depended on the choices we were about to make, and in this suffocating darkness, the real battle had just begun. The darkness pressed in on us, thick and cloying, wrapping around our throats like a noose. My heart raced, pounding like a war drum in my chest. I blinked, trying to force my eyes to adjust, but the shadows remained an impenetrable curtain, swirling and shifting with a sinister intent. "Can you feel it?" Tilly whispered, her voice barely a breath above the sound of my thrumming pulse. "It's alive." Her fear was palpable, and I felt it too, the anticipation, the anger, the strike of an unseen hand ready to snatch us away. My pulse quickened. "We have to do something," I exclaimed, but even I couldn't mask the tremor in my voice. Then I remembered the drawings, the intricate patterns connecting our family. Surely, they must hold a clue to controlling this curse. "The drawings," I said, turning to Tilly. "The ones in the attic. The symbols must mean something." "Now?" she asked, her brows knitted in concern. "In this darkness? If we have any hope of breaking this, we need to face it head-on," I pressed, trying to summon all the bravery I could muster. The shadows seethed, and suddenly, images began to form within the void. I saw faces, my ancestors again, their expressions etched in terror. Some were whispering, while others erupted into cries of anguish. I staggered back, horror gripping my throat. "Stop!" I shouted, trying to wrench my attention away. "You want to control us." But the figure reappeared, and this time it was closer. I could feel the cold that radiated from it, chilling me to the bone. "You think you can escape?" it taunted, its grin widening. "You are entwined in this web of legacy. Every choice you make pulls tighter." In that moment, something ignited within me. "We make our choices freely," I declared, each word echoing against the shadows. "You don't control us." Tilly squeezed my hand, her grip steadying me. "Remember the drawings. They connect us to our lineage. If we can tap into their energy." Her voice trailed off, and I could see the spark of hope flickering in her eyes. "Right. The serpent. It's both the downfall and the key," I said, desperately piecing the fragments of my memories together. "If we channel its energy, we might be able to turn that curse back against this nightmare." But the shadows grew more aggressive, lunging and snapping at us, as if sensing our resolve. "Do you really think it's that simple?" the figure hissed, anger twisting its features. "You're merely playing with fire." I felt the heat of those words, an overwhelming wave of dread. "Let us go. We have to get to the attic," I shouted, not waiting for another second. Together, we plunged into the dark, scrambling, hearts pounding like never before. Each step felt like wading through tar, each breath a battle. We reached the stairs. The creaking wood mirrored the chaos in our minds, but adrenaline propelled us upward. I barely recognized the space when we burst into the attic. Dust danced in the air, illuminated by the faint light filtering through a grimy window. Where were the drawings? The scattered papers lay disorganized, but my eyes caught a glimpse of something, those familiar symbols scrawled across the top sheet. With rapid breaths, I snatched it up, my fingertips tingling. "Here!" I yelled. Tilly rushed to my side. The symbols seemed to shimmer before my eyes, a language forgotten but now feeling alive. As we traced our fingers over those ancient curves, a low growl reverberated through the attic walls. The shadows seemed to respond, clawing at the edges of our vision. I could sense the dark presence searching for a way to crush our promise. "Do it," Tilly urged. "Channel it." I focused. All the anger, the betrayal, the fear, and the hope surged like a tidal wave inside me. "This is our legacy," I shouted, raising the drawing high. "We will not be your puppets." And then, the symbols pulsed. I felt a warmth radiate through my palm, spreading to my fingertips as if the very essence of our ancestors was reaching out for us. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in fury, and I realized we were drawing a line. We were fighting back. But just then, a deafening crash echoed from the door below us. It rattled violently, sending a tremor through the floorboards. The air thickened, filled with a new dread. "Come on!" Tilly cried, her eyes wide. "Hold it! Don't let go!" The shadows surged one last time, swirling like a ferocious tempest as the door split open. An icy wind screeched into the attic, mingling with the shadows. Something even darker was coming for us. We stood at the edge of hope, teetering on uncertainty. The legacy was ours to shape, but could we hold the line against the rage of the cursed? A rush of energy crashed around us, propelling us forward. Would this power be enough to confront whatever horror awaited on the other side? In that moment, it was clear, the true battle was just beginning, and the darkness was far from defeated. A sudden stillness slammed into the attic as the door buckled inward, revealing a swirling void that felt like an abyss. The sharp creak of the opening door sent icy tendrils of panic racing down my spine. Tilly's grip tightened around my wrist, her eyes reflecting the terror mirrored in my own. "What is that?" she breathed, her voice trembling. I couldn't tear my gaze away from the swirling darkness. It loomed larger, and in its depths, I could make out shapes. Wisps of shadow ghosted past like fragmented memories long forgotten. My breath hitched, caught somewhere in my throat. "Back!" I shouted, instinctively putting myself in front of Tilly as the looming figure took form. It was no longer just a mass of shadows, now it had substance, a twisted visage carved from our deepest fears. My own father's face contorted in anguish. "Do you think mere symbols can save you?" It rasped, every word slicing through the air like a jagged blade. "Your bloodlines are brittle. You are nothing without their fear." "No!" I screamed, taking a step forward despite the swirl of dread that threatened to pull me under. "We are not afraid of you." The immediate darkness faltered for just a moment. Maybe it was the energy we'd begun to channel from the drawings or my sudden rush of defiance, but there was a flicker in the shadows, a hesitation. "Stay focused," Tilly urged, her hands finding the edges of the surviving drawing. "Channel what you feel. Remember the serpent, it's our power." I stared at the drawing, the symbols glowing faintly now, radiating warmth that fought against the coldness creeping toward us. It was there, an energy building, something ancient awakening within us. This was bigger than us, it was our entire lineage, every fiber of their pain and hope thrumming through our veins. "I won't let you take her," I shouted, channeling every ounce of my fierce determination, every ounce of love I felt for Tilly, every moment of doubt I had faced. In a matter of seconds, I took a deep breath and hurled my arms forward, drawing on everything in the drawing. The motion sent a pulse out, breaking through the shadows, a wave of light erupting like the first rays of dawn. For a heartbeat, the shadows shrank back, recoiling from the assault of light. I could see the face of my father begin to dissolve, the anguish replaced by something almost relieved. "That's it," Tilly yelled, her voice steady. I could almost see the same fierce light breaking into her profile, radiating strength. Together, we channeled every memory, every whispered conversation, every bond forged through hardship. The wails of our ancestors echoed in tandem with our newfound resolve, merging into a triumph that enveloped us like a cloak. But the shadows fought back, drawing closer, thickening around us like a storm. The figure I had faced twisted violently, its screams drowning out the whispers of our family. It lunged toward us, but we stood firm, pushing even harder, channeling that energy faster than I thought possible. Just as it felt like the shadows would swallow us whole, they hesitated again. The figure paused, its form flickering like a flame caught in the wind. "No. This can't be," the voice cracked, revealing a flicker of fear, that chilling vestige of uncertainty that had always masked its fury. Tilly and I shared a glance. It was that moment of connection and understanding that if we let our combined strength falter, we could lose everything. "Together," I urged again. As one, we raised the sheet high above our heads, feeling the warmth intensify around us. But just then, a scream echoed from the lower floor, a voice lined with desperation. "Help! Please!" It pierced through the tension, shattering the moment, refocusing our attention back to the door. Tilly's eyes widened, drawing my attention away from the looming threat. "Who is that?" The question hung heavy in the air, cloaked in confusion and dread. The shadows hesitated a moment longer before lurching again, pushing forward with fury. As our light struggled to hold its ground, both Tilly and I clutched the drawing tighter, frantically. Trying to regain our focus, the cries from below pulled at my heartstrings, combining fear with an urgency I couldn't ignore. But could we risk the wrath of the dark while also responding to a plea for help? As the darkness surged, the choice between fighting it or racing to save someone seemed impossible. The shadows grew wilder, and it would take everything we had to hold our ground. "Stay with it," Tilly shouted, battling the pull, battling me as fate demanded we make a choice, and in that dreadful moment, I felt the line fracture. What would be our ultimate price? The darkness pulsed around us, swirling and frothing like a tempest. I could hardly hear Tilly's voice over the cacophony of shrieks and laughter that seemed to echo from below, taunting us with the urgency of the plea. My heart raced painfully against my ribs. Was someone down there in real danger? "Think clearly," I shouted, my voice barely rising above the darkness. "We can't just leave. We need to fight this thing." But Tilly's expression twisted in conflict. Her desperation mirrored my own, but fear flickered in her eyes. The cries below rose again, haunting and familiar. It tugged at something raw inside me, something deep like hearing a name long forgotten whispered through time. "Steve." It might be. She hesitated, then steadied herself. "We can't know for sure. It could be a trap." "Trap or not, we have to try," I barked, my voice filled with urgency. The shadows were closing in tighter now, their tendrils brushing against my skin like ice water. What if it's Mom? What if it's someone we love? That fear settled over us, the weight of it heavy and suffocating. Tilly stared deep into my eyes, searching for something, for courage perhaps. For a heartbeat, I thought she might relent, might choose to run. But then the torment of those cries pulled her in, an unyielding force stronger than any darkness could muster. "We could split. I'll go down. You hold the drawing," she suggested, a wild determination igniting in her voice. "No. I can't." My protest echoed in the attic, mingling with the voices from below, but a new wave of shadow billowed toward us, and I felt my resolve crack. "Trust me." With a fierce glint, she pushed the drawing into my hands, her fingers lingering against mine for only a moment. It sent warmth coursing through me, our connection, our bond pulling me back from the edge of doubt. "Trust this and hold the line. I'll be right back." Before I could object, she dashed toward the door, the swirling dark attempting to lunge at her, manifesting into grotesque shapes resembling those we just fought. "Tilly." "No." My voice cut through the space, but she was already gone, swallowed by the shadows. I was left standing there, heart racing, grasping the drawing like a lifeline. The light still flickered but was growing faint without her next to me. Tendrils of darkness clawed at my arms, and for the first time I felt the cold panic weaving through me, a suffocating grip that threatened to pull me under. Holding the drawing tighter, I focused. The images felt alive against my palm. I whispered the serpent's name, calling forth that power again. The light surged weakly, but it was lost against the roiling shadow. I needed her back. Tilly could not stay away for long, she couldn't. But as time stretched on like a yawning abyss, a part of me feared she would not return. A horrid thought crept through my mind: what if the cries from below had lured her into a snare from which she could never escape? Trembling, I ventured to the edge of the doorframe, peering through the enveloping darkness. It wasn't just shadows anymore, it felt alive, almost sentient, as though the void was watching me, waiting for weakness. "Tilly!" I shouted, voice cracking. But all I heard in return was silence, thick and oppressive, pressing in around me. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from below, jolting through the house like an earthquake, and then a low, grotesque laugh. It rattled my bones, freezing me to the spot. Then the unmistakable sound of struggle reached my ears, a hand smacking against the wooden floor, a cry of pain, quickly silenced. In that moment, I felt something cold drip down my spine. What had I just heard? Was it too late? Taking a deep breath, I took a step back toward the drawing, forcing every ounce of concentration to surge into the symbols once more. They flickered weakly, fighting against the encroaching dark. I had to make a choice, and fast. Could I abandon Tilly to save myself? But before I could decide, the walls shook with a frequency that threatened to tear apart the very fabric of the house. The shadow surged again, and I realized the danger was escalating. With a sudden burst of urgency, I locked my gaze on the dark. "Whatever you are, I will not submit," I cried, feeling my connection to Tilly pulling at my heart. But just then, a dark figure emerged from the chaos below, one that was distinctly familiar, emerging with a menacing smile. "Look who found her way back." My stomach dropped. Who was that? Was it Tilly? And suddenly, I knew that whatever I chose to do next would either save or decimate everything we held dear. "What price would you pay for her safety?" The shadow hissed, leaving me breathless, the weight of its promise hanging heavy in the air. I had to decide. The shadows warped and twisted around me, pressing in with a suffocating breath. My heart raced as the flickering light from the drawing danced around the attic, barely keeping the encroaching darkness at bay. The sinister figure stood before me, its voice dripping with mocking familiarity, the kind that raised bile in my throat. "Let her go," I shouted, the strength in my voice wavering as I fought to keep fear from consuming me. "Oh, but she is so much fun," the figure cooed with a dark satisfaction, an uncanny imitation of Tilly's own warmth laced with academic precision. "Wouldn't you like to know what she is truly capable of?" Rage ignited within me, burning hotter than the fear that sought to chain me in place. "You can't control her. You can't use her against me." I surged forward, clenching the drawing in my hands, feeling its life force swirl around my fingers like a comforting embrace. The shadows hesitated as I focused, channeling the serpent's power through my core. The symbols pulsed, vibrant against the darkness pressing against me. I would not waver. "You want to know what she can do?" I shouted, feeling the energy rise like a beacon. "I'll show you. You will not have her." With every ounce of determination swimming in my veins, I thrust the drawing toward the malevolent force before me. The white-hot light exploded from the symbols, cracking like thunder against the oppressive darkness. The chilling laughter faltered, replaced by a swirl of howls echoing through the air. The figure lurched backward, the shadows flaring and contorting as if alive, retreating from the onslaught of light. "This isn't over," it hissed, as the tendrils of darkness wove around its limbs like shackles, fighting against the brilliance that threatened to shatter its hold. I saw the visage struggling to hold its form, remnants of the familiar face flickering in and out like a dying flame. "Back to the void with you," I screamed, letting the serpent's power fuel my cry. The shadows hissed in defiance, but I held strong, pouring every ounce of love I felt for Tilly into that connection, drawing on the strength of our bond as it coursed through my heart. In that moment, a piercing scream exploded from below, the sound of someone in desperate need. It felt familiar, pulling at something deep within my chest like a primal instinct. "Tilly!" The name burst from my lips, and the walls seemed to tremble in response. "Stay with me," I shouted toward the darkness, anchoring myself to the light that now swirled in a halo around the drawing. "You can't have her. You can't have any of us." With a final surge, I pushed forward, wrapping the brilliance of our shared energy around me. It exploded into a wave, washing over the shadows like a purging fire. The laughter twisted into screams, shrieks that peeled away and faded into silence, darkness disintegrating against the light. As it crumbled, the figure screeched in fury, revealing a moment of sheer horror in its eyes before being absorbed back into the void from which it came. Breathless, shaken, I stood at the threshold between shadow and safety. For a long, unsure moment, all was still. The dark that had threatened to consume us dissipated into wisps of smoke, unraveling into nothingness. My heart raced, each beat echoing against the frantic silence, drowning in uncertainty. "Tilly!" I shouted again, my voice ringing out into the void. Anxiety gripped me, clenching my stomach. Had I lost her? Would I ever see her face again? Tilly, where are you? A moment later, I heard a soft whimper, followed by a familiar pained breath. I rushed toward the doorway, flinging it open with urgency. The room below was bathed in flickering candlelight, revealing Tilly sprawled on the floor, her face pale, eyes wild with fear as she struggled to rise. Tilly! Thank God! I rushed to her side, dropping to the ground beside her, pulsing with relief and adrenaline as I helped her to sit up. Are you okay? She gasped, the life returning to her voice as she wrapped her arms around me, grounding me against the pounding chaos that had taken hold of my heart. Just shaken. But I brought the serpent's light. We did it. The shadows had been dispersed, but the heavy remnants of the experience still lingered in the air like a lingering chill, a promise that the stories would never truly vanish. I could feel it in my bones, an understanding that our legacy had shifted, our fate intertwined but now under our control. External whispers subsided as we shared the silence, the void now a mere echo of a past that could no longer hold us captive. I had faced the darkness, seen my lineage, and defied it. What now? Tilly asked, her voice steadying as she looked into my eyes, the warmth of her spirit pulling me back to the present moment. Now we move forward, I said softly, holding her gaze. We carry the legacy, but on our terms. The curse doesn't define us anymore. As we embraced in the dim candlelight, something shifted inside me. The shadows had been banished, but I realized that they would always exist in some form. The stories would persist, yes, but with each new dawn, we had the power to rewrite our future, to transform them. Together, I whispered, the promise solidifying between us. Together, we would navigate whatever lay ahead, hand in hand, connected by shadows, yet stronger in light. You need to subscribe now to catch the next exclusive stories unfolding. Smash that like button now and feed the algorithm to keep the journey alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions, theories about the ending, and tell us how you felt about Tilly and my fight against the darkness. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is what makes this community thrive.